Good Morning Show with Troy Torres is brought to you by 76 Circle K Guam.
Access to medical care is becoming more and more of an issue here in Guam, and it doesn't even matter if you have the ability to pay. It's getting harder to see a doctor, to get an appointment, or to get the specialty care that you need. So I want to show you a growing solution to a growing problem. They're going to go out of their way to help find you a solution. And they've been growing their clinical services. Aside from this place looking and feeling homely, like this is their waiting area, like, I don't think that people really understand that they do full clinical services here. Like, this is one of their clinical rooms. Look how nice it is. You get your vision exam here. So do you need to see an OBGYN, get family medicine done, internal medicine done? This is all stuff that's done here at the Total Guam Foundation. And just to tell you again, this place is not for profit. This is the psychologist's office. Yes, they have a psychology department. They also do psychiatry. It's an entire mental health department that they have here on top of all the other clinical services that they provide. If you need medical care, if you're having problems getting a doctor, getting an appointment, call the Todu Guam Foundation at 649-TODU or 649-8638. There has not been a shortage of topics to talk about, topics that actually matter to our development as a society. Good morning. My name is Troy Torres. It is 8:03 a.m. on Wednesday, May 13, 2026. And if my eyes look like tired, I'm tired. I don't know why. I did go to sleep at a healthy hour, about 10 o'clock. I got my coffee going. I think I just need a break. I think I need a vacation, actually. That's what I need. But that can't happen because we got to do the morning show every day, every night. We have to put together the obituaries. The evening shows, hopefully more people can start to take those over, especially when we reopen our studio. Yeah, I'm not complaining. You know what? We're here today together. The Lord woke us up today, and we're going to get through this day just like we get through every other day, and that's with the grace of God. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this live broadcast on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, all at the same time, simulcast at the same time on Kandit's platforms. Thank you so much. This is the morning news analysis. This is the Wednesday news analysis, and I want to talk about three things today. One, the recent sentencing in the illegal bingo case in district court. Two, I called it comfort funds. It's just this letting out. We saw this 4 years ago. It's happening again. The letting out of federal funds in order to buy things, hire people, give pay raises, etc. In an election year. And then the third thing is more informational. It's so I stopped paying attention to the Joint Information Center press releases a few weeks ago, maybe like 1 or 2 weeks ago. And I missed something, and so I saw it in the PDN, and I messaged Ken Quintanilla, the executive director of the American Red Cross. I was like, hey, do you have anything to send me about this help center that you guys opened over at the Micronesia Mall? And he was like, he sent me the JIC press release, and I was like, oh, I stopped looking at those a couple of weeks ago. Anyway, we're going to talk about all those things, but before I throw it to the first break, and by the way, the first break is 4 minutes long. I just want to let you know, just so you're not like freaking out about anything. Yeah, anyway. So there is, let me go to this. There is a website that I don't know whose website it is. I was just shown it last night, and I thought this is pretty cool. Do you guys remember Trader Horn? stintgu.com. I don't know why it's called stintgu.com. But that's Stint Guam, I guess, to get your stints done. I don't know. Anyway, if you go on this website, and it hasn't really been, it looks like a brand new thing. You can look for services or items that you need on this website, and you can also sell your services on this website. And there's like a ranking system that so look at this. So if you need, let's say you want someone to do a birthday invitation for you, you go to graphics and design, and then someone says, a seller says, I will design stunning social media graphics for your brand, or I will design a professional logo for your brand. Or if you're a graphic artist, you join as a freelancer right over here. You see where the cursor is? And you can put up something like, I can design your birthday card or wedding invitation or whatever, and you have a starting price, and you put that there. And then so what makes this better than, because I stopped buying stuff over at on Facebook, on like Guam Grabs and stuff like that. It's just not that the people who put that stuff together are bad people or anything like that. It's just there's no quality control, right? Like, you don't know if what you're purchasing is a stolen item. Also, I don't like to meet perfect strangers and if they ask me to go to their house or they want to come to my house, I'm like, no, we're not doing that. Like, meet up at Payless or something, that's fine. But even at that, I don't like the idea of that. And a lot of the people who are selling are drug addicts, and I just don't want to be anywhere near something like that. I used to be a drug addict, and so it's not something that I want to be close to, right? But so on stintgu.com, you can filter through your budgets. You can just filter through like a new sellers, rising talent sellers, top rated sellers, stint verified, and you can give ratings for each of the people. So it's like even better than Trader Horn when you think about it. And you guys remember Trader Horn, right? When you could call up K57, I think it was during the lunch hour, and you can buy or sell any number of things. And it was just such a great service. And then it shut down like more than a decade ago or something like that. And then that was the rise of the online Facebook sales or whatever. Stintgu.com does quality control, and which is something that as a customer, that's important to me. And if I were ever to sell something, I would want to get on this platform as well. Stintgu.com. I have no idea whose platform it is. It just seems like a wonderful service being provided to the people of Guam, and I wanted to promote it. If I have any time, I will put it up in a story on our website, put it out on our WhatsApp channel, blast it out. But I still have to do like a whole bunch of GoFundMes. Like, people have sent me GoFundMes to put up, and I haven't done it. Like, it's just a crazy amount of work that happens on a daily basis. Anyway, when we come back from the commercial break, we're going to go right into the illegal bingo case in federal court, how it's coming to a close, and how that might mean, it could mean, according to some sources familiar with the investigations, indictments of coming down the pike for other bingo parlors or other people associated with other bingo parlors. We'll talk about that on the other side of this commercial break. Stick with us.
Every day I realize and I know I have enormous responsibility. For me, I wake up knowing that I have a lot of things going on. I don't know what my day is going to be like, but I wake up knowing that I have a big responsibility to do, and I need to do my best every single day. That is what I think about. It's a combination, actually, of two people. My grandpa, this is my mom's dad. His name is Jose Franquez de Colmo. He was an accountant, so not necessarily an exciting job, but gosh, he loved to farm. He was very neat, but he was very patient. I never seen somebody so strong and patient than him. He didn't overuse his authority, but you would know when he was upset about something, and nobody would ever mess with that. My dad, he didn't grow up with a dad. My grandpa died right after they got out of Manyangan. And in his neighborhood in Sinahanya, he's like the older brother to many of the other kids that didn't have fathers. Either they died in the war or they left the families. But from him, I learned about hard work and being humble, but also being proud of who you are and being strong. That's the leadership that I emulate, both patient and understanding, but also strong and loving. I have a unique vantage point, at least on politics, because I was a teenager when I met Ricky Berdalian. I'm one of the few politicians or leaders my age that actually had interactions with him. I used to work for his wife when I was in high school. I worked for Governor Gutierrez. I worked for Robert Underwood. I'm the partner of Governor Liu. So every single leader that the Democrats have pushed forward or who have aspired to be the leader of the Democrats to lead the island, I've had an opportunity to work with them. And it's been excellent to learn from them, to learn from all their life experiences. Well, if that happens, then we accept the decision of the court, and my time and attention will do a little shift. It'll include making sure that I am there to be the father figure for my nephews, to make sure that I'll do my responsibility to being a caregiver to my mom, all at the same time with fighting for and pushing the agenda of the island. And I am up to that. I'm prepared and I won't be dissuaded in that job. What I would say is that even in your own homes, it is nearly impossible to know and be responsible for the actions of even the closest members of your family that you love and trust. Sometimes your own trust gets betrayed, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to give up or step away from my family members. I trust them that they are going to make the right decisions. And when family members don't make the right decisions, then they have to account for those bad decisions. Doesn't mean that I'm going to love them any less. It just means that perhaps things change in the dynamic of your own family. I have 3 nephews, 2 from my sister and another one that's real close to me. And I always think about being there for them. That's the inspiration to do the best that I can, because I think that they're so talented. I worry about them and I feel like I need to do the best job I can so that they are going to have the best shot in life to do what they need to do and live a good life.
I'm Josh Tenorio.
And I'm Tina, and we approve this message.
I have to make a disclosure before going into this next subject. Welcome back. My name is Troy Torres. It's 8:14 a.m. on Wednesday, May 13, 2026. There's a birthday in my family's tomorrow. I can't remember whose birthday it is. It's a sibling of mine. I think tomorrow is my sister Tiara's birthday. I need to double check that. Gosh, I hope she's not watching. Anyway, the next subject's about the illegal bingo case. It is a case that involves at the head of it's no longer alleged, it was already proven at trial, conspiracy, Michael Marasigan. And I have made this disclosure in all of the news stories that I've run about this during the indictment and trial phase. And anytime that I talked about this, I've made this disclosure that Michael Marasigan was my boyfriend for several years. And we lived together for, I think, 10 years. Between 2005 and 2016. The relationship fizzled out in that last year. And we broke up, I think it was third quarter of 2016 or something like that. But anyway, we lived together. And according to the federal government, the crimes that he and others conspired to commit, began in, I believe it was March of 2015, and carried through to 2020, if I'm not mistaken. Whenever half a day bingo existed at the old Greyhound Park. There is Michael Marasegan also he operated Buenas Bingo so during the pandemic, he moved his operation from Greyhound Park over to the old Genghis Khan building, and it was called Buenas Bingo. And by that time, I didn't know this until I was following the case. By that time, the Shriners were no longer the nonprofit. And I had assumed it was the Shriners the entire time until this case happened. I found out that it was the Agana Heights Athletics or Basketball Association or something. It's some athletic, not so-called nonprofit organization that is tied to the Agana Heights mayor's office, the former mayor's office. No, I think even the current, like there are people who work in the Agana Heights mayor's office who are the officers of this organization. And that was the nonprofit that was tied to Buenas Bingo. Now, to be clear, the federal case that was charged, tried, and convicted involved the Hafaday Bingo Shriners timeframe and did not involve the Buenas Bingo Agana Heights timeframe. But I don't think that's because no crimes were committed in the Buenas Bingo timeframe, because the same permit that was utilized for Hafaday Bingo is the permit utilized for Buenas Bingo. And according to this federal case, and the jury had ruled that permit was defective. And how the money changed hands, how the operation functioned was the same between Hafaday Bingo and Buenas Bingo. I have to imagine that Michael Marasegan was the operator of the Greyhound operation, just as he was the operator of the Buenas Bingo operation. Just as there are people who are operating or who have been operating at least some of the other bingo operations. And that's what I want to talk about today. But before that, let me make a disclosure clear that not only was Michael Marasegan my boyfriend during at least the first few months of the alleged conspiracy, we held separate bank accounts. I was working at the governor's office. I was always busy. He was doing his bingo thing. We lived in Jordan. Like, I took my car from Baza Gardens, that's where our house was, through Cross Island Road to Adaloop, where I worked. He took his car from our house in Baza Gardens at a different, like his work started later, to the Greyhound and whatever errands that he needed to read. We didn't lead separate lives, but when it came to work, nothing intersected. And when it came to finances, nothing really intersected except that, I paid for the mortgage. And so when I found out that this dude was a flippin' millionaire and that he started to accumulate money, like this kind of money during the time that we were together, I was like, well, you couldn't even pay for the mortgage? What the heck was that? Left me with the bills? Anyway, I just needed to make that disclosure as I discuss this. And yes, by the way, I was questioned by the FBI in this case. And it's I've told this story before. It's a long story. So let me just say, to make it short, there was something that happened at the end of the Calvo administration to Mike Marasegan's bingo business, involving Juan Sun Min, who was his initial business partner in this illegal business operation. Juan Sun Min was the first to plead out in this case. She was tied into a separate case that bled into this case. She was the star witness, and she pleaded out prior to this case. She was sentenced and everything, right? I don't know if the real estate regulators over at Revenue Tax ever did anything about her brokerage or real estate license, but there are very specific rules about federal convictions. Anyway, so I ended up reporting something that Juan Sun Min did to Michael, and this was after we were already broken up. He just came to me asking for some help. And I reported this to the FBI because around this time, this was when I was going through my drug thing and my false arrest under Ray Tenorio. And so I had established a relationship with the FBI. So I reported what Wan Sun Min allegedly did to Michael Marasegan. And he wanted that. He wanted that report to be made because of something that she allegedly did that was really bad. And that led to the FBI investigating Hafaday Bingo and this now convicted scheme. And so the next time I heard from the FBI agent, he asked me a curious question. He was like, "Did you know that that Michael was making?" I think he was like, "Did you know that he was making like such and such amount of money around this time? Were you involved in the bingo operation?" I was like, "I would go to the office, because Mike would bring our dog, and so I would go, and if I had any free time, I would go hang out for a little bit." But no, I wasn't involved in the operation. But I was present for like a couple of meetings that he had with the Shriners where they did talk about whatever. I'm surprised I was never called as a witness on the witness stand for either the defense or the prosecution, because I mean, there were things that there was like a meeting at the airport office that Al Guerrero, who pleaded out in the case, there was a Shriners meeting that they held in and I thought that was weird. I was just along for the ride. And I thought that was bizarre, having a meeting inside a government office about the Shriners. But I was like, oh, it's nonprofit. What the heck? And I remember thinking when the indictment happened, because I remember people in that room, and I remember that some of those people were not indicted in the case. And I remember that they were talking about how they got the permit from Revan Tax, and whatever they were doing was perfectly legal because, what is his name? The late George Cruz, who was I think the tax administrator at the time, he said that everything was on the up and up, and that the Shriners were going to make Mike the operator of the whatever. So, nothing like we're going to take money here, nothing like that. But, how the whole thing came about was in this one, meeting. And there were people in that room who did not make it onto the list of co-defendants in the case. I always thought that was weird, but also not my place. I'm not a federal investigator and whatever, right? So this is essentially what transpired, according to this federal case, is that in 2015, Michael Marasegan and Wan Sun Min entered into a business partnership together with the Guam Shrine Club. The Guam Shrine Club, also called the Shriners, their purpose primarily was to raise money so that kids who needed to be hospitalized at the Shriners Hospital in Hawaii could be transported there. It's just transportation costs, right? And according to Guam law, in order to operate bingo in Guam, you need to be a nonprofit organization. And you need to be present at all of the bingo games. The nonprofit organization needs to be present at all of the bingo games. How Wan Sun Min and Michael Marasegan and the Guam Shrine Club did things was Min and Marasegan at first operated the bingo hall. They were the ones who had all the vendors. They were the one, like the cards, the board, the machines, all that stuff, right? They were the vendor relationship was with them. The bank account was in the name of the Guam Shrine Club, but they had access to the bank account along with the Guam Shrine Club. Guam Shrine Club, at least one of their members would be present on a nightly basis in order to fulfill the letter of the law. But the majority of the proceeds from the bingo revenues, net of the winnings, every night there's like significant winnings, right? The majority of the proceeds were not going to the Shriners' purpose, but according to the feds, were being diverted in ways. So out of $34 million, according to all this information, more than $10 million. And this is only the Greyhound portion. This is not the Genghis Khan portion. Like, I believe that the Genghis Khan portion was, I mean, like, if you saw the number of people who played bingo at on a nightly basis and the payouts that they had at the Genghis Khan, the Buenos Bingo, the one that was tied to the Agania Heights Athletic Association, That was way more people than over at the Greyhound. And I believe the capacity of the Genghis Khan facility was bigger than the Greyhound one. And so, like, I firmly believe that the Buenos Bingo portion, which was never charged, there was never a trial on that part, brought in way more money. But on the Greyhound portion, out of $34 million, the feds say that $11 million was net of the bingo winnings. And out of that $11 million, a very small portion went to, out of the $34 million, a small portion went to the Shriners. And about 11 million of it was diverted into bank accounts for Michael Marasegan, and the others involved in the conspiracy, including, and there was a story today by Julian Hernandez in the Pacific Daily News, Art and Christine Chan, and then others who pleaded out in the case. So the ones who took it to trial were Michael Marasegan and Art and Christine Chan. And man, I know they were convicted of committing felonies, and I know that, money changed hands or whatever, right? But I just cannot help but feel bad for Art and Christine Chan. First of all, because they're elderly people. Christine Chan, I believe, is 64 or 66 years old. Art Chan is like 70, almost 80 years old. And, I wasn't close to them or anything, but they were very nice people to me. And they weren't flashy or anything like that. I have no idea what they used the money for. I have no idea how much they knew about whatever, except that, I knew that in that meeting at the airport, Art Chan was there, and was aware of how the permit worked and how all that stuff, right? How they were making Michael Marasegan the operator, in all but name. And so now we're at this stage of this federal fraud case. Christine Chan has been sentenced, I believe it's 6 years in prison. Like, when she gets out of prison, I pray to God that she survives that long, because she has kids, grandkids. I think she might even have great grandkids. She'll be like in her 70s. Art Chan, he was previously sentenced to 5 years in prison, but there has to be a recalculation done. So he's going to be sentenced either today or tomorrow, because Christine Chan's sentencing took 7 hours, according to Julian Hernandez's story. And then the others in the case should be sentenced as well. I think Wan Sun Min might have spent a little time in prison. She pleaded out, though. See, when you plead out in these, especially in federal cases, you get a whole lot of leeway when it comes to sentencing, because you didn't force the court to expend resources. You didn't force the criminal justice system to expend additional resources in order to get to that guilty verdict, right? If you plead out, you make things easier for everybody. And if you truly are guilty, things work, and then justice has worked, right? And it worked a little bit better for you. And if you plead out and you agree to testify against somebody else, or to cooperate with the federal government against other targets, etc., you get even more consideration. So Wan Sun Min, she pleaded out, and she agreed to cooperate and to testify against the other defendants in the case. And so she got considerable leeway, considerable leniency when it came to her sentencing. As for the others, I'm not entirely sure. Al Guerrero is like in his 90s. That guy's very old. I just can't see like prison time for someone like him. And I know the law doesn't differentiate, but I mean, just, mercy for people, right? And I get it. Some people are like, hey, you do the time, you do the crime. As I've explained before, like I'm the kind of person who should never be on a jury, because I'm a defendant's like dream juror, because I'd always be like, oh, why don't we just give him a second chance? Because I've been there. I've been the person who's needed a second chance. And many people throughout my life, especially God, have shown me considerable mercy. Anyway, so I bring all this up because my main point is that the case is near completion. About 2 years ago, when all of this was heading into trial, a source who was close to the criminal justice system told me that this Hoffaday bingo case is not the end of anything. It's actually the beginning of a federal crackdown on illegal gambling in Guam. Because, and I know this to be true from my time with Michael Marasegan, how Michael Marasegan and the Guam Shrine Club and Wan Sun Min operated Hoffaday bingo is no different from how other bingo parlors operate bingo, from how other people profit from this activity. Now, since the Hoffaday bingo case was tried in court and convictions were made, have people changed their activities? I don't know. But let me tell you this. You're not going to find too many people on this island who are willing to expend that much time and energy on an operation like that so that almost all of the proceeds goes directly into some charitable cause. There is an example of a long-standing bingo operation that really does run as a charity or for the charitable causes. Now, how they use the money inside that charity, that's a whole other story. I don't know. That's and I don't know whether this is one of the places under investigation, and I don't even know whether they're still operating. But I do remember that the actual operator of Pangasinan's bingo were the members of the Pangasinan or the Pangasinan Association of Guam, or whatever that organization was, the one that was running inside Harmon Industrial Park. I don't know whether that's still a bingo that's operating, but I do remember that their operation, and I remember Mike telling me this, was different from how Mike operated it, meaning far more legit. And according to the federal government, if it was operating differently from how Hoffaday bingo and maybe even Buenos bingo and some of the other bingo parlors were operating, then, that might be a safe one. But, and if my source is correct, whenever this case is done, whenever everyone is sentenced in this case, and I suppose if the U.S. attorney, because remember, there's been a change in administrations, right? So you don't know whether there's also going to be a change in priorities or whatever. This case straddled the line between the Biden into the Trump administrations. But if there's been no change in priorities, there's been no change in whatever is considered the docket over at the U.S. Attorney's Office, and if my source is right, we might be looking at more illegal bingo or illegal gambling cases coming down the pike. And that's not even to mention the possibility of cockfighting being something that the feds would be looking at, and maybe they have been looking at it for quite some time. It's just, with the feds, you just never really know, right? If you are within that statute of limitations, like let's say you're one of the 52 people whose tax records were pulled into the Tenorio corruption case, I mean, I would be crapping kittens if I had anything to do with any of this stuff within the statute of limitations. When we come back from the other side of this commercial break, I want to talk about the money. Always in an election year, there's always money floating around, money for hiring, money for promotions, money for all the stuff that people for the past 4 years have been like, where is all this stuff? And then all of a sudden on election year, all this stuff just pops up. And it makes it look like something's being done. We'll talk about that on the other side of this commercial break. Stick with us. You know what I love about our people? One of the things I love about our people is how snarky we can be. That's one of my favorite comments. Every day there's a new thing, there's a new post, or sometimes people like grab from posts from before and they just start, they comment away, right? And so there's this posting by the governor's office, the Guam governor's office, that shows a video from the lieutenant governor who is promoting the annual the DYA summer youth program, that job program thing. And so MT Farron wrote, "Comfort crook." And it's just, you know. One of my favorite things, I think it's like Dom Toretto or like one of these guys, right? Any news story in any news organization on Guam, it can be about, hula dancers have graduated from the hula school, or buy your spam for $2.99 at Payless supermarkets. And I think it's Dom Toretto. He would comment on any story, doesn't matter what it is. Pua. 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 It's so good. I saw Comfort Crooks. I was like, wow. And it gave me an idea. Let's talk about comfort funds. Let's talk about the amount of money that is being let out on election year. And we've been through this before. This is the same story as in 2022. Truly, this is the same story as in 2014. Kind of. In the Calvo administration, people who suspected this were absolutely right. So the going suspicion in the Calvo administration, throughout the Calvo administration, was that anytime there was any sort of scandal or like bad news, anything that was negative about the Calvo administration, all of a sudden, Governor Calvo will release tax refunds. And sometimes that was just a coincidence. Yes, sometimes it was just we were going to release tax refunds anyway. But sometimes, and our chief fiscal officer at the time, just brilliant with the financials of the government. Like there's a lot of credit taking in this administration for strong finances, et cetera. But I mean, how this administration is handling the finances of the government is nothing compared to how the previous administration took the government's financials from super deficit. I'm talking about a $370 million deficit into a surplus within 4 years. I mean, it was an extraordinary feat, and then kept the government's financials stable while the economy grew to the largest economy Guam had ever seen. All of that, my friends, has since been lost. Anyway, Bernie Artero, she had this habit of saving up money. She wouldn't even tell Governor Calvo. She was like that grandma, your grandma, right? Who kept the family together and always had a rainy day fund. If the family ever ran into any trouble, grandma had it together, and it's because she was in charge of the purse, right? And everybody else was just an idiot. That was Bernie Artero in the Calvo administration. She didn't even tell Governor Calvo, and Governor Calvo didn't want to know. He was content understanding that Bernie had full control of the financials of the government. And so whenever Governor Calvo would run into any type of trouble in the media, he would always be able to look back at Bernie and ask, do we have enough money in the pot? to make a tax refunds payment today? Can we announce it today? We can announce it today, but we'll make the payment tomorrow. And it would always be a tremendous amount of money. It would just the amount of cash that she was able to stow away with Benita Manglotnia, who was the DOH. She was the cash director at the time. Those two really worked it so that there was just always this cash. So it's true. We use tax refunds to get ourselves out of trouble in the news, to change the news story. Because as soon as that news story came out, tax refunds are going to be paid, everybody was happy, except for the people who were outside that cutoff date. But, Governor Cabo had made it so that you weren't waiting 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years for your tax refunds. You were going to get it within not just 6 months. You were going to get it within 3 months. And then it became you got it within 2 months. By the end of his administration, you got it within 1 to 2 months. So anyway, in 2014, when we were running for re-election, there didn't need to be a giant letting out of funding, because for the past 4 years, we had done very well with the tax refunds. But we did do something in 2014 that was necessary to do closer to the beginning of the term. It's just that the financials weren't there at the time. We only got news of the surplus audit for, I think, 2013 in 2014, which was the re-election year. And we used that information to accomplish what we never promised to do in the election, but we knew needed to be done because one had not been done since 1991, and that was to revise and to update the Hay Plan, which ended up giving significant pay raises throughout the government of Guam. So that was the only election year. Gimmick that we had. Everything else, from the merit bonuses to the comp time, all the stuff that the government had over a couple of decades failed to make a good on, we were making good for between 2011 and 2013. That in 2014, it was the Hay Plan. And that, call it whatever you want, part of that was an election year gimmick. The current administration has put that type of gimmickry on steroids. And in 2022, we saw them with the use of federal ARPA funds, even CARES Act funding that had been held back so that it could purposely be used and let out on election year. I remember how everyone was pissed off going into 2022 about the problems that were had, following the lockdowns and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, the money started coming out in 2022, which was the re-election year for Lou and Josh. And all of a sudden, people were getting placated, and not just placated, people were getting happy about the administration. Essentially, several voters became political prostitutes. They changed their tune from, I'm pissed at this administration because it's corruption and all this stuff. And then when they were paid off with the federal funds that Michael St. Nicholas got, that Lou Leongro took credit for, even tried to say that Mike St. Nicholas and Kilili had nothing to do with those funds, even though the truth is they had everything to do with ensuring Guam and the CNMI got those funds. Took credit for it, made the payments in election year, sailed into re-election. I don't know whether it's going to be that easy this year, all things considered, the corruption case and all that, right? But we're seeing that same gimmickry rear its ugly head where, okay, we're going to release Mawar funds. All of a sudden, Mawar was in 2023. And yeah, I get it. There was a process to get those funds, but really, it's going to be released on an election year. And it's going to be released in the months leading up to, in the weeks leading up to the primary election, after the strongest candidate, whoever was, Therese Terlahi, has announced that she's running against you in the primary election. I hope that everybody sees it for what it is, right? It's a gimmick that it's not just Democrats who do this. Republicans, I was just telling you, when the Republicans were in office, we did the same thing. Not to this level, to be sure, but and this is, I really hope that this type of abuse of discretion stops with this administration. Oh, I don't know what happened. I just froze. My camera just froze. In such an ugly place too. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't know what's going on with my camera. Hold on. Let me change this because I look weird. Hold on. The camera's changing. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened with my camera. Hi. Okay. I had to change the camera because I don't know what was happening with the upper camera. Anyway, I hope that this type of abuse of discretion ends with this administration and that the next administration employs a greater bit of integrity in how it approaches the use of public funds. Because first you got Mawar. They're like, oh, we're going to start spending all this Mawar money on election year. And then they're like, oh, we're going to buy 40 buses, comfort buses, buy 40 buses for mass transit. Really, after all these years, you're finally going to do something about the mass transit problem? And then, oh, we're going to have another pay raise study on an election year. Another election year pay raise study. It's just so Captain Obvious by now, don't you think? But you never know. You never know how much people, I'm talking about voters, are willing to prostitute themselves for stuff like this, or just how many stupid people there are out there who could turn an election simply because it wasn't Captain Obvious to them. When we come back from the other side of this commercial break, we will talk about the help center that's over at the Micronesia Mall. For those of you who are not qualified yet for FEMA aid, because, and I don't know where the administration is on this whole FEMA aid thing. The administration hasn't gotten it done. But the American Red Cross is here for the rescue. We'll talk about that on the other side of the break. Stick with us.
Guam AutoSpot is extending our overstock sell-off with the hottest deals on island, like our 2025 GMC Canyon with $4,000 off, or slide into a brand new Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross, starting at just $24,995. September is your chance to drive big and save even bigger. Visit us today or get pre-approved online at guamautospot.com or call 478-AUTO. Guam AutoSpot, where the savings never stop.
Comfort crooks. I just can't get over that. Welcome back to the show. It's 8:50 a.m. on Wednesday, May 13, 2026. My name is Troy Torres. It's the Wednesday News Analysis. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is just passing along information. And you probably saw this in the other news who have been paying attention to the JIC news releases. I stopped paying attention like 2 weeks ago and probably should have not stopped. Where in one of those releases, they talked about how the American Red Cross Financial Assistance Service site is going to be at the Micronesia Mall. The ARC, the American Red Cross, announced that its financial assistance service delivery site for residents impacted by Super Typhoon Sinlaku has relocated to a new location. I didn't even know where the first location was. Assistance is available for residents whose primary homes were destroyed or suffered major damage. This assistance is independent of government programs and is intended to support immediate recovery needs. American Red Cross service delivery site caseworkers will be available on site to assist residents with applications at the Micronesia Mall, Space 111. I don't know where that's at. From Tuesday, May 12 through Sunday, May 17 from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., American Red Cross Financial Assistance Service will not be operating at the Istumbo Community Center, contrary to information previously stated in JIC Recovery Release number 25. Members of the public are advised not to report to the Istumbo location for assistance, as Red Cross services will not be available there. Here's the eligibility and documentation for this stuff. To qualify for damage-based financial assistance, households must have a pre-disaster primary residence in a confirmed impacted area that was destroyed or sustained major damage. There's no definition for major damage, at least in this. Applicants must, I have to imagine, like if a wall came down, your window blew in, and like a whole bunch of your contents were destroyed, or like your roof came off, or part of your roof came. I have to imagine that that's major damage, but I'm not sure. Applicants must provide proof of identity and residence. Proof of identity and residence. Okay. Identity documents include passports, permanent resident cards, or government or military IDs. Address verification, mayor's verification letter, utility bills, rental agreements, or mortgage statements. And dual purpose documents, driver's licenses, or government ID cards. Red Cross is a charitable organization, not a government agency. Assistance is available to those who qualify regardless of citizenship status. Okay, that's good. And does not need to be repaid. I was wondering about that because they're asking for documents, right? And normally people who are undocumented would not be able to get certain types of ID cards. I'm not entirely sure how that all works. Just go check them out. They're not a government organization. I don't think they're gonna call ICE on you. But I also don't think that there are too many undocumented people on Guam. This would be more of an issue in Saipan, Tinian, and Rota. According to their flyer, yeah, that's all the information that they have. Yeah, go check them out. If you have damage and you're just waiting for FEMA and the government of Guam to do something, don't wait for them. Go check out the Red Cross. They might be able to help you out. And then speaking of FEMA and the government of Guam, so after things like damaging typhoons, there would normally be a major disaster declaration that the president makes that would open up FEMA assistance like individual and household assistance or SBA loans for businesses. That is not that major disaster declaration has not been made by the president, but only because, and as far as I understand, as far as I know, as of the latest information I knew, the governor had not sent the request. The governor has to make a request. According to the governor's office and according to the rules, a damage assessment has to be done. And I don't think there's been any news about damage assessment being completed. Let me just double check. As of May 7, damage assessment's ongoing. And so didn't the storm come on April 13 or 14 or something? I think we're almost at the 30 days, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, I'll try to follow up on that. Tonight, what am I talking about tonight on the Troy Torres show? I have my notes somewhere. Tonight we'll talk about something exciting for sure. For Candid News, I'm Troy Torres. You all have a beautiful day. God bless you. And thank you for joining me.